Okay, good morning, everyone. This is the Rules Committee, and it is 9:38, and I would like to call to order the teleconference meeting of the Rules, Policy, and Industrial Relations Committee of Thursday, December 16th, 2021. Before we begin, please be advised this meeting is being recorded. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you again, everyone. Starting with Director Cochran.
Here.
Director Conroy.
Present.
Director Garbarino.
Here.
Director Grossball.
Here.
Director Hernandez. Absent. Director Hill.
Here.
Vice Chair Terrio.
Here.
Chair Arnold.
Here.
And President Parr.
Present.
Thank you. You have a quorum, and you are also a committee of the whole. On the line, you also have Directors Fredericks, Maston, Rabbit, Rodoni, and Snyder. I'm going to confirm staff on the line real quickly. Dennis Mulligan.
Good morning.
Joe Wire.
Yes.
Ava Barr-Furbish.
Present.
Kim Manolius.
Good morning.
Steve Miller.
Present. Good morning.
Thank you. Mona Babauta.
Present.
Great. Jim Swindler.
Present.
And Kelly Hopper.
Present.
Great. That confirms staff on the line.
Okay, thank you, and welcome, everybody. I would like to remind everyone to mute their phones until after staff's presentation, and remember to unmute and identify yourself when we open up for director discussion. If there are any comments or questions, the Secretary or I will call on you accordingly. Following our discussion, we will ask for any public comment before moving on. Please follow along by referring to the page numbers located on the bottom of your meeting packet. Madam Secretary, please proceed with the agenda.
Thank you, Chair Arnold. We're going to start with agenda item number 3 to approve actions relative to the table of organization in the bus division. That staff report begins on page 3, and Mona Babauta is presenting this report. Mona, go ahead and start your report.
Thank you, Amarette, and thank you, Chair Arnold. Good morning. What's before you today are proposed changes to the bus division organizational structure. I've served as the Deputy General Manager of the bus division since April 2017, and in my relatively short time here, we've not only seen a lot of regulatory changes occur in the transit industry, but we've also faced a number of unanticipated events, such as the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and wildfires that not only threatened our division in Santa Rosa, but also the homes and lives of many of our employees living and working in disaster areas. I have also had the privilege of working with many individuals who have proudly served the district for decades, and we are now seeing many of them choosing to retire and start new chapters in their lives. In spite of all the change and significant disruptions to our operation, my team has always put in well over 100% to ensure that we could still serve our customers safely and reliably, while also responding to new federal and state regulations. It's truly been a privilege to work with such an incredible team. However, these changes and events have highlighted the need to reevaluate how we are structured as an organization to ensure that we remain compliant and responsive to regulatory requirements, including maintaining compliance with the Federal Transit Administration's new Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan rule, which requires regular reviews and adjustments to safety management systems on an annual basis, and starting the transition of our fleet to zero emission as soon as 2024. And we have nearly 200 buses across 4 storage and layover facilities to consider. The COVID-19 pandemic and wildfires have also highlighted the critical importance of ensuring that our organization is agile and has the capacity, knowledge, and skill sets to pivot the operation to effectively respond to impacts and threats to our system, but more importantly, ensure that we are capable of protecting the safety of our employees and customers in doing so. Furthermore, as we continue to see turnover and attrition occur, and as we assemble our new team of leaders and public servants, We want to do this with the future in mind, and we want to set them up for success and ensure that they feel supported by giving them the tools, training, and room to effectively do their jobs and grow as professionals. With all of this in mind, staff has outlined several proposed changes for your consideration today, which are reflected in attachments B and C of the board report. From a high level, the bus division is proposed to be structured around two new departments, the Transit Operations and the Business Operations departments. As I've shared with my team over the past week or so through several group presentations, the proposed Transit Operations department is focused on delivering day-to-day transit service, which our current organizational structure supports very well. On the other hand, the Business Operations department is focused on activities behind the scenes that we must do before, during, and after service is delivered, which include, for example, producing bus schedules and work shifts for our operators, reporting performance data and statistics to federal and state regulatory and funding agencies, managing and preparing audit files, planning our zero-emission bus future, managing the marine transit contract, and supporting the administrative needs of our team, such as approving and tracking leave requests. On a more detailed level, some other more notable proposed changes include a new unit in the Transit Operations Department that is focused on safety and training. This unit would be expected to expedite the hiring and training of approximately 100 new bus operators in the next 1.5 to 2 years, which is important for allowing us to expand bus service and support economic recovery in the region, and to strengthen the safety environment and safety management systems in the bus division in accordance with FTA regulations. In addition, a new unit in the Bus Operations Department focused on data analytics and project management is expected to improve organizational agility, performance efficiency and effectiveness, responsiveness to internal and external change, as well as management and delivery of projects that have district and division-wide implications. With the addition of these two proposed new units, other changes to the organization would include giving the Transportation Unit in the Transit Operations Department the capacity to improve operational processes and emergency response procedures and training for our Operations Control Center and Field Operations teams, as well as streamlining our Fleet and Facilities Unit to improve efficiencies and allow for more focused work on maintenance processes and projects, especially in light of the fact that new bus technology will soon be introduced to our fleet. In this case, duties around safety programs and performance monitoring will shift to the new units. Then on the business operations side of the division, other proposed changes include consolidating all division-wide administrative duties under the Bus Administration Unit and allowing the Schedules and Service Development Unit to focus on their main responsibility, which is to develop service schedules while balancing operational efficiencies with employee and customer needs. Overall, the proposed changes result in a net increase of 6 new positions in the organizational structure, although only 5 of them would be new full-time positions. The 6th position is a special project limited assignment position that is meant to allow an existing bus division employee to seek a professional growth opportunity while helping the division meet an unanticipated operational need. This would be assigned on a limited term basis and funded with either capital project funds or salary savings, depending on what the project is. Therefore, the net increase in employees translates to a 1.5% increase in the total bus division staff and a 1.2% increase approximately to the bus division's operating budget. In addition, no layoffs will occur as a result of the proposed changes or the elimination of any positions. The bus division wants to keep the valuable and incredibly talented staff that we currently have, and we will make sure everyone has a place in the proposed structure. Lastly, I want to point out an error in the fiscal impact section that I missed. It's on page 20. The Operations Control Center manager's proposed salary would be $126,693. So the total estimated fiscal impact as a result of the proposed changes would be $1,234,322. Please know, however, that the correct salary for this position is accurate in the staff recommendation. And so with that, thank you, Chair Arnold and committee members, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, Mona, thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions or comments from the directors on item 3?
Yeah, this is Dick Grosmal.
Go ahead, Dick.
So what is the actual net additional cost to the district with this change, approximately?
It's about $1,234,000.
You know, what I'm about to say, I'm in a little bit of an awkward position, but I have to say, I would say it if it were the marina contacting us all the time, the Inland Boatmen's Union, or the coalition, or Public Employees Local 1 with the painters. But, you know, the board members have been barraged with emails from members of the public and members of the operators over the last month. And to my surprise, if it's true, we learned that there's been our negotiation tactic is not to give any increases. So my only point is, if that is our position, which I don't agree with, but I find it ironic that we would. You just need authority to counter that. I find it ironic that we would be. Excuse me one second. And that was authorized. That we would be doing this and adding over $1 million and adding new positions at a time when we're not offering to the very operators that you're trying to change the structure on. So I would ask that this be postponed until that gets resolved. I also see there's a reference to 275 full-time bus operators, and my understanding is we're down to under 220, maybe even as low as a couple hundred. I don't know if that's true or not, but to add this much expense when we have fewer bus drivers also seems questionable. So I can't support this, but I also would ask that it be postponed until the issues get involved and have some respect for the operators. But again, I'm in an awkward spot given my role, but I would have said the same thing if this were the painters, the Inland Boatmen's Union, the coalition. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, Madam Chair, this is Dennis Mulligan, the General Manager. I would like to respond.
Okay.
First off, the emails that the directors have been receiving are in error. We recognize that we have to provide a wage increase and pension help to our bus operators, and we have wage offers that have been discussed at the table. And so we have scheduled a closed session tomorrow for the board to brief them appropriately in closed session on the status of negotiations with the ATU in response to the misinformation that's been disseminated. But we clearly recognize that, you know, we have to give wage increases to our employees, and we recently approved a wage increase for all of our coalition employees, all of our painters, and all of our non-represented employees. So staff, as part of the negotiations, will update the board with respect to the status of the recent mediation and the ongoing negotiations with the bus operators. So I would like to put to rest the misinformation that we're not interested in putting wages on the table. Secondarily, with respect to the number of bus operators, it is true we're currently not at 275. We currently have the ability to do one training class at a time, a small one. And when drivers come back from leaves, we can't do retraining on weekends because of staff limitations. So one of the key components of this is to increase the safety and training effort for the district so that we'll be able to have 2 bus operator classes at a time. We'll be able to retrain and test operators who return from leaves on weekends so we can get service out. A year ago at this time, the district was under a specter of a layoff. The board on November 13th of last year voted to lay off a significant portion of our bus and ferry division. At that time, we were looking at a fiscal cliff. Fortunately, on December 27th of 2020, Congress passed CRISA and additional relief came, and we've gotten $155 million of one-time federal COVID relief in calendar year 2021. But we had a hiring freeze in place throughout the district, and so we've had attrition throughout the district. We were not hiring, absent the last round of federal COVID relief money that was allocated to the district. So we have a need to staff up. So you are correct, Director Grosboll, that we're not at the number that we would need to get all of our service back out on the street. And so if we are going to onboard large numbers of bus operators, we're going to significantly need to increase the size of our safety and training staff. And if we're going to do some of these other board initiatives and comply with new federal requirements, it does require that we restructure things. So I would respectfully ask the committee to not postpone this item at this time because the status quo is problematic. And we do recognize that we need to not just hire bus operators, but we need to greatly expand our training and safety efforts.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from other board members?
This is Director Maston. I have a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, I would echo much of what Dick just said, and additionally, I question how appropriate this is from a fiscal standpoint until the ARP and PEPFAR funding issue is resolved.
All right. Any others? Questions or comments?
Chair Arnold, this is Director Rodoni, but I want to wait till committee members have a chance to make comments first.
All right. Any other committee members with comments or questions?
This is President.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'll wait.
Who is this?
I was Director Chair, but I thought the President Parr was it President Parr who's asking to speak as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'll wait. Okay. Thank you. I'm a little of two minds on this. I certainly hear what Director Grossbolt and Director Maston are saying, and I do see the difficulty in the optics of wanting to put this kind of money out at a time when we haven't fully come to an accord with the folks who are going to actually be doing the on-the-ground work of driving for the district. That these changes are meant to oversee. On the other hand, I did note that as General Manager Mulligan has pointed out, that the number of the positions are for increasing the number of drivers, and so responding to a need for drivers, and that in and of itself, if we increase the number of drivers, will improve the situation of the pension, I'll say. Mm-hmm. Also, I noted the new data analytics department, and coming out of, or even in the middle of COVID, it will be, I think, essential to be able to discern new patterns in the corridor and respond to them, and create or tailor service to deal with those new patterns. And so I think, even given the difficulties that Director Grossbolt and Director Maston have raised, there are things in this restructuring that will improve the situation of the drivers in the not too distant future. So, despite my hesitancy, I think I will support this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Director or President Parr.
Yes, thank you. I tend to echo Vice Chair Theriault's words for a little bit different reasons. First of all, I think it's unfortunate that the information is out there that we aren't considering an increase for the bus drivers. I think based on what we've done with the other employees, that it's pretty clear that there will be some sort of an increase. We just haven't gotten to the point where the number works. I applaud the bus division and Mona. This is clearly a deeply thought out restructuring. It's big. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. It's not just moving around one or two people. It's looking at what makes an organization work, and I applaud her for that. I applaud the fact that there are actually no layoffs. I too am inclined to support this. I think if the fiscal department agrees that the money is there and that
that we can do what we need to do and still make life better for the bus drivers, and also, as Mike said, deliver some services that are going to be so different we don't even know what they look like right now. And I think that's going to be the challenge for next year. My question to Mona is, I heard you say that you had meetings with the bus drivers over the last couple of weeks. What was the reaction of the employees to the restructuring and to the meetings?
So President Parr, I was able to meet with all of the staff, with the exception of the operators and the mechanics out in the shops. I'm planning town hall meetings in January that will give me an opportunity to speak with them. I just didn't have time to reach out on that broad level. However, everyone else in the division, including supervisors, dispatchers, our admin staff, our leadership, I've met with all of them in small groups, and their general reaction, they were happy to see the improvements in the safety and training department, because that's what we really need to grow our service. Right now, we're structured to do individual classes of not more than 12 to 15 trainees. So in order for us to grow to 100 operators, that may take 2 to 3 years, given our current structure. So many of them were happy that we're looking at augmenting the number of people in that unit. That will allow us to get to 100 operators in about half the time. And just having the capacity to actually work with our employees and coach them and mentor them and help lift them up, which is the culture within the bus division. You know, our time is very limited to do those kinds of things. So a lot of my managers are excited to actually have some capacity built into the bus division to be able to do more of that. In general, the feedback I got was positive. And then there were folks, I will admit, who they're not as familiar with what happens behind the scenes, so they were kind of quiet and didn't really know how to react. But in general, I did not get any opposition from any of the staff that I've met with so far.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
This is Dennis. If I could add one thing, anecdotally, I have heard that operators were excited to hear that we're planning on hiring 100 new operators, because I think some of them, after the difficult, COVID time we've been through, were worried about were we, interested in maintaining a bus division and, adding back service and growing again. And so I think the news of hiring 100 is something that many people have responded positively to.
Okay, and I have just a follow-up, if I may, please.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I do understand that, I can hear, and I don't understand the whole piece like you do, but I can hear that it's mostly helping the organization run better. It's kind of behind the curtains, management, people who are in charge of the scheduling, that sort of thing. What is the impact on the operators? I hear that there'll be more of them, and that's a real positive. I also hear that it may be a little more fluid reaction to what the operators actually need to run their routes, that sort of thing. What do you see as the actual impact on the operators?
There won't be any direct impact to the operators or any other represented employees through this proposed structure. However, the scheduling department, and then with the help of the data analytics group, we'll now have the opportunity to really dig into the data and figure out how we might be able to grow the system as we add more operators to our group. Yeah, and the other thing too is, as we add more operators to the group, we will also be able to assist with restructuring some of their runs and giving them more breathing room within their schedules. And right now we really don't have a lot of that space because our staff has shrunk from 275 to roughly about 200 operators today. So we are really trying to continue to meet the needs of the communities, and there's just not a lot of space given the number of operators we have on staff right now. We really need to grow the number of operators we have on staff to really put out more options in terms of how they perform their work every day. Give them a few more breathing room, more breaks during the day. Right now, we really don't have that opportunity. So that's how I see the jobs of our bus operators maybe evolving over time as we have more space to work on our schedules and add more operators to the group.
Okay, and did I hear correctly that it does not impact the represented employees?
Not at all. There are no impacts to any represented employees in the division.
Thank you. I think that's an important piece of information.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Arnold, if you don't mind, this is Mona. May I make another comment?
Please.
I also want to share that I met with the president of the ATU. I've met with the business rep of IAM 1414, and I also met with our Teamsters rep. And I went over all of the proposed changes, and I did not hear any opposition from any of them when I presented this.
Great, thank you for that. All right, who else has questions or comments?
This is Director Hill.
Yes, please.
I've got a question that relates to this. You reference that there are coming back in a set of new regulations that have to be met, part of your reorganization associated with new requirements and new regulations. That's one part of my question. And I'd like to find out just a rough idea how much of the reorganization is actually dealing with this new scope that is being included that we need to perform to. The second question is a little bit more broad. In my years, I've noticed that there's been an awful lot of that relates to the health of the operators, particularly in the area of lumbar support. And my question is, how much of that is a matter of the amount of time that's being driven, or the process, or the organization, and how much of it is mechanical in terms of the equipment that they're using that draws into this? I get the feeling that this is probably the biggest effect of medical problems and everything else, not directly related to this, but that's something else that I would be interested in seeing that you're approaching. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee members?
This is Director Conroy. After hearing the staff explanations, I'm comfortable with moving forward on it. I think there's organizational improvements that are needed. I think the ability to bring on new operators and bring back operators is essential right now. And restructuring of runs, the types of things, I don't want to be repetitive of what's talked about, but I feel comfortable in letting it go to the full board for consideration.
Thank you. All right, Director, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. No, I think Director Rodoni was ahead of me. This is Patty. Sorry.
Okay, Director Rodoni.
Thank you, Chair Arnold. I think I want to thank staff and Mona for the presentation. I think looking at the reorganization is really, really important element, and certainly is the job that she's doing, so I respect that. I think I'm concerned about the increased administrative costs. Many of the reorganizations I've been involved in the last several years incorporate gaining efficiencies and actually reducing staff. So I would love to understand what additional duties are being added to what we aren't already doing, as one question. But I more generally want to also talk about the uncertainties that we're facing, going forward, the uncertainties of the economy, going forward, the uncertainties of public transportation in specific, and then the uncertainty even of the marine transit contract as we're negotiating that right now. And then certainly the uncertainty around the labor contracts that we're negotiating now and then that we're going into early next year. I just wonder generally, the general question is this the timing right for this, given all the uncertainties that we face? So that's my main question. And again, I'm new to this committee, so I'm respecting the committee's position and will probably abstain from this vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone,
if I may, Madam
like
Chair?
to respond? Yes.
Yeah, this is Dennis, and then Mona can chime in if I left something out. I agree there's tremendous uncertainty in our future, and that we need to be structured organizationally to address that uncertainty. And I guess one question for the committee is, do you want to err on the side of continuing to shrink, or do you want to plan for a more optimistic future? And if you want to continue to shrink our bus business, and that recognizing that there's new requirements, so we'll have to divert staff from other things to take on additional responsibilities, and our ability to do things will decline, and that we'll be incapable of training the number of operators we do just to restore prior service levels. If that's the future you want, then you can reject this item. But if you think that we want to be part of the economic reopening of the region, and if you want to have the ability to be able to hire and train staff, if you want to have the ability to address the climate emergency by converting our fleet to zero emission, and if we're going to comply with all the requirements that we have that are new requirements from the federal government, particularly with respect to safety, it's going to take an organizational structure change, or we're going to stop doing other things that will impair our ability to do our job. And so it really gets into what your vision is for the bus division. Do you see it dark, dire days, or do you see that we have COVID relief money to get us through the end of next fiscal year? And during that time, we'll see a rebirth in the region. And like the Spanish flu of 19 and 18, will be followed by the roaring 20s. So I would encourage you to think about what your vision is. And if you want us to hire a lot of staff, train a lot of staff, address the climate emergency, and to be well poised to address new regulations, then please support this item.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
This is Director Rabbit.
Hello. Yes, please.
Committee, Dennis kind of stole my thunder there. To me, as someone who sat on the Blue Ribbon Committee at MTC, someone who's dealing with a lot of the future of transit, I think there are two ways to look at it. Either we can accept the status quo, do really nothing about the status quo, put our head in the sand, and hope that things just return to normal, or we can be nimble, look over the horizon, be prepared for additional service. And I do believe that additional service model that we're going to have is going to be different than what we had even pre-COVID. There's going to be a certain change and shift in workforce. Our AM, PM work hours may not be the same, but I still think that the board, the district, and our bus system especially, has so much to offer and so much to build. And I think that if we do nothing, as the general manager just said, I think we're more likely to not be able to rise to the challenges ahead of us, not be able to provide that service model that we want, not be able to grow. And I know that we all talked to the president of the ATU, and I understand the concerns on one level, and I think like Director Theriault mentioned, if this provides us the opportunity to grow, that's also a good thing for our labor groups. It's a good thing for the pension plan. But it's more importantly, it's a good thing for the customers that we serve, for the district going forward, and the future of the bus system for the district as a whole. So, I would be supportive of this going forward, understanding, it's tough to make an investment when your finances are down, but sometimes those are the smartest investments to make.
Thank you, Director Rabbit. Who else? Someone else wanted to speak. Which is Director Garbarino?
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to just echo what. First of all, I thought that was a phenomenal staff report. And I apologize, there's another call coming in here. You might hear beeping. But I want to state that I agree with what Director Conroy and Rabbit just stated very eloquently, and the comments that Dennis made. We're looking at a future that is bright, and I am very optimistic that this plan will be just what we need. That too, keeping in mind that the next generation wants more mass transit. They don't want to drive a car. So I do think we need to be prepared, and I completely agree with the staff report and would be happy to make a motion to move it forward to the board tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
This is Bill. I should get an answer. How much of this is related to conformance with new regulations and changes that you're obligated to do?
All right, thank you. Who else has comments?
That wasn't a comment, that was a question.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Chair Arnold, yes. In response to the director's question around regulations, really the biggest regulation that we're faced with having to comply with that admittedly has been a bit of a struggle for staff, although we've been doing our best to stay in compliance. It's around the Federal Transit Administration's agency safety plan rule and the safety management systems that we're required to put in place to support our plan. And it's a matter of, and I'll give you an example. We've been working really hard to develop processes in order to encourage employees to report safety issues and report hazards. We put out a lot of information about how that process will work and how employees can report safety issues and hazards. We take that and then we have to go through what they call a hazard tracking and risk assessment process. Right now, we don't have someone who is in charge of that. We have an analyst in the scheduling department who we have called upon to help usher that process along. And as the rest of us are trying to put service out on the road every day, we're trying to make time to do hazard risk assessments and hazard tracking so that we can then go out and find ways to solve these problems and mitigate these hazards. And this speaks to Director Hill's question as well as related to lumbar support and some of the issues the operators are having with their chairs and with the new barriers that we're installing that, is resulting in some other challenges, physical challenges for them. This hazard tracking process would allow us to trend those safety issues as they come in and actively work towards solving them. And if we had the time to put together a more comprehensive process, we can maybe even be a little bit more proactive about avoiding those issues from even occurring. So really, there's just a lot of work around safety, a lot of work around trending safety issues and data, and doing work around being proactive about avoiding some of these issues that quite frankly we're reacting to right now because we're not staffed up to focus on safety and training so much. So I just I'm not sure if I answered Director Hill's question around regulations, but that's I'd like to share that with the group. And if there's more information that is needed, I'm happy to provide that.
Thank you, Dennis. Could I add one more regulation, which is the California Air Resources Board has regulations dealing with our zero-emission bus plan. And we have a significant amount of changes that will be coming to how we plan our service, design our service, what our facilities look like in order to implement that. And separate from that regulation, which I think was germane to the director's question, the board also adopted a climate emergency declaration where you've expressed your desire to not just meet the minimum requirement from CARB, but for us to exceed it and do things quicker.
So I'm just trying to get an idea then. Is this a significant part of what this is about in terms of financially that would have to be done more or less anyway if we're going to prepare properly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. All right. All right. Anyone else? Okay. I just want to say the discussion has been, I think, excellent and covered so many points. I think that how this is proposed. What I'm hoping is that it really adds to the goodwill among the employees, which is needed and which I think we all understand. And we are going to change, and the Golden Gate Bridge is not alone in this. Business has to change their way of doing business because of COVID. It has changed so much. And in my opinion, to see how we're doing it and taking a step, even though there are unknowns, it's wise. And I think it's going to reap a lot of goodwill and hopefully increased business. Also, I just again want to really congratulate Mona on a job well done, and thank you for that, and also for the board members who have had, such good questions that you can tell they've been really mulling this over. And I think we had a good discussion public here. So this concludes the discussion on this issue. And before we take our vote, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on item 3?
Yes, we do have 2 speakers today for this one, but what we were going to do is during the presentation by Mona, a number of other people joined on. So we're going to check to see if there's more than the 2 speakers, but give me 1 second to make sure. I do have so far Shane Weinstein and David Pilpel on my list. So hang on 1 second.
Okay.
All right, we have 4 speakers, so we're going to, in a second, have Justine invite. I believe we're going to start with Shane Weinstein. Justine, go ahead and introduce the first speaker.
Thanks, Amaret. Shane, please go ahead.
Hello, Chair Arnold. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm actually a little bit angry right now to kind of hear what is coming up in this presentation. First of all, Mr. Mulligan, the first time we've ever talked about a raise for the bus operators was 2 days ago between you and me. My family has worked here for 30 years. I love this place. My grandparents worked here. My dad worked here. I work here. I'm trying to fix a pension. I'm trying to do everything that we possibly can here. And this is a squirrel. What you're hearing is safety and training needs to be boosted. Why? Because nobody even volunteers to be in the training department anymore. We have had 75 people leave out the back door while this is going on. I want you to know that this does not include benefits. Our benefits are very, very, very expensive at Golden Gate Transit. Please pay attention to that. We have people leaving in droves, 75 people since March of 2020. We've brought on 10 We had 6 people in a new class. We now have 2. We can't hire anybody. What are we doing here? Well, I know we need ZEB buses. I understand that we're going to have to put that towards the future, but we're talking about $1.2 million just in costs without benefits for a ZEB bus. There won't even be operators here to drive the buses. Please don't focus on the squirrel right now. I understand that this is good if we were in a different spot, but this is not the time. And we do not need to do this right now. The one thing that I've come to find out is I've had all of these conversations with, I believe, 12 directors to this point about negotiations with the ATU, is that they don't know what's going on. And I needed to inform everybody, and here you are all very, very misinformed. He's telling you that you're misinformed about, Dennis Mulligan is telling you we're misinformed. That's not true. We're not misinforming everybody. I promise you we're telling you the truth. And right now, I'm telling you the truth. We absolutely do not need this. We need to beef up safety and training and get people in there, absolutely. And we need to beef up hiring. But that's what we need right now. Don't focus on the squirrel. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Next person.
Our next speaker is David Pilpel. David, go ahead.
You can hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So the detailed staff report answered a number of questions that I have had about bus for many years, and I appreciate that. I support increasing the management staff and reorganizing the bus division as staff proposes. I think there should be further tweaks to the structure and titles in the future as circumstances warrant. I hope that in the district, bus has all vehicle maintenance responsibilities and bridge has all facilities maintenance responsibilities. I think that's true, and I'm not sure if that was written in the report, but I think that's sort of my understanding. I had a good brief conversation with DGM Mona Babauta last week, and I look forward to more of that. If this is put off today or tomorrow, then I hope staff will come back with a similar proposal addressing the concerns expressed. Overall, I think that this is really about capacity in the bus division to address safety and regulatory changes and management and span of control, all of those issues, and ultimately culture in the bus division. And that's just a continuing thing. And finally, on a slightly different topic, since there is no Transportation Committee meeting today, and I suspect that tomorrow may be a little busy or congested, I just wanted to take a moment to thank Director Fredericks for all of her work over many years. So I don't have to say that tomorrow. Thanks very much for listening.
Our next speaker is Drew Fallon O'Neill. Drew, go ahead.
Thank you. I've listened to today's comments. I've also looked at the organizational chart. I think this is a little premature. I do agree with Shane. The hiring process, the lack of drivers, the drivers that have been trained that are leaving is a situation where you're going to have more staff than you have people in the seats. So I think you need to grow somewhat, but the areas of growth should be towards the safety and training aspect, and as you grow, add more management. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Holden. John, go ahead.
Yes. My name is John Holden. I'm a bus operator at the Golden Gate Transit. I was one of the 10 employees listed in this death threat letter that was posted around the sites. I've given feedback to HR that there needs to be more oversight as far as management on site. Management has been kind of missing in action. A lot of them have been working from home during COVID remotely. And so I think it's important that management takes back the space to ensure employee safety and more efficient operations. Having said that, there are bus drivers leaving at this point, and I don't know if the timing is right for this to happen. With SMART competing for transit passengers, it seems like it's still debatable on who will use mass transit in which capacity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chair Arnold, we have no other speakers this morning.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. May I have a motion on this item?
Okay.
And don't everyone talk at once.
This is President Parr. I'll move the item.
All right. Do I have a second?
Director Conroy, second.
All right. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Would you please do roll call vote?
Thank you. We are voting on item number 3 with a first from President Parr and a second from Director Conroy. We are a committee of the whole, so I'm going to start with Director Arnold.
Yeah, yes, aye.
Thank you. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Fredericks.
Yes.
Director Garbarino.
Aye, with also the optimistic comment that we will be making adjustments to the wages of the bus drivers. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Giudice. Absent. Director Grosboll.
No.
Thank you. Director Hernandez is absent. Director Hill.
I'm here. I will go yes, but with the belief that this will not affect any of the labor that's going on with it. There should not, the drivers should not be paying for this in any way at all. But I think the point of these changes are somewhat regulations that we have to conform to. And for that reason, we will vote yes, but not at the cost of labor.
Thank you. I'll have you down for yes. Director Mastin.
I'm going to vote no with the hope that when things settle down and we're in a better position that it comes back to us.
Okay, Director Mastin, no. Director Melgar is absent. Director Rabbit.
I'm going to be optimistic and vote yes.
Thank you. Director Rodoni.
Abstain.
Director Rodoni, abstain. Director Snyder.
I agree with Phil's comments, and I'll vote yes.
Oh, yes, thank you. Director Stephanie. Absent. Director, Second Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
Yes. First Vice President Tirio.
Yes.
Yes. And President Parr.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 10 ayes, 2 noes, and 1 abstention. That motion passes.
All right. Thank you. And again, let me just say that this was, I think, an excellent conversation, and I think it will be good as then when we present this to the board that we will have a lot of this information behind us when this comes, because these questions will probably come up then too. Also, I just wanted to say that in businesses all over, many employees are leaving. And obviously, they all have their own reasons, but one of the top reasons is because they want to spend more time with their families, and that can be attributed to the COVID. So I think that making plans early, even when not all of the numbers are in, is a prudent way to go. All right, so now the motion passes, and that brings us to item 4 on the agenda, which is public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this committee?
We have no speakers under item number 4, public comment.
All right. All right, thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Director Terrio.
Okay, and do I have a second? All right. Hearing no objection, this concludes the meeting of the Rules, Policy, and Industrial Relations Committee. Thank you, colleagues, and the time is 10:33.